Hey everybody, what up? All right, so in this video, I want to talk about the fact that you have the C-suite out there that thinks that they can like vibe code a product overnight, and it doesn't matter if you're in like music production or you're doing a bunch of database work or insurance systems or whatever it might be. I think that there's a lot of executives out there that feel like they can just like vibe code a solution and get it done overnight. And like I said in my previous video that like Kathy Woods talks about everybody can be a coder and all this. We went from like literally everybody can learn the code to now everybody can just like vibe code their own shit. That's where we're at right now. But the argument that is made against people that are like, yeah, Lovable, that the product Lovable, if you've ever checked them out, they're kind of like Wix, but they're like AI driven. They're, the goal is like, oh, you just feed a chatbot and it'll build you your own blog or website or any of that stuff. And none of those things are worth any money anymore. And there was a period of time where developers made a lot of money just doing basic HTML templates, right? And then we kind of got, as soon as everybody started hosting their own stuff and they realized like I can just get a DigitalOcean or a Linode and host my own website. And then eventually like people are like, oh, I can have my own infrastructure in the, AWS cloud or whatever. Basically, we've seen I think the freelance kind of PHP developer kind of, I feel like I've seen that decline over the last 15 years. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing that I feel like that entire field is just not something that is profitable at all. Like if you're like a freelancer trying to build a blog or a basic e-commerce website for somebody, those days are probably numbered if they're not gone already. So that said, that's going to eat into a ton of SaaS business, and that's where we're at. So all the SaaS businesses are that like can basically read your Excel file or whatever and modify the data, store it somewhere, present it to you in unique ways, whether it's high chart graphs or something like that. All that stuff is going to be at risk now as well because the LLMs can do those things rather effectively. But the argument has always been made by programmers that like, oh, it writes unmaintainable code. You're going to have a problem down the line. And, that's why we have ESLint rules and 100% unit testing, code coverage and all that. And we have integration tests and this and that. And I feel like where the industry needs to be is there's like a disconnect between like the old school or like the old guard of programmers that do things like clean, maintainable, properly architected solution. Basically these the architectural type programmers that are very particular about, oh, you use 4 spaces versus 2, or you need to finish every line with a semicolon if it's if it's even if it's not required, like little things like that, right? So we created lint rules, and the LLM does a terrible job reading ESLint files, even if you tell it to do that in its instructions. It does a terrible job at those sort of things. But you have these programmers that are like, well, if we don't do that, we're going to have this unmaintainable code. And I think where our mindset needs to be is that the business wants features delivered as quickly as possible, because most things are not going to work out. Most companies are going to fail in a short period of time. Most video games developed are not going to make any money. Most things are a failure. And the quicker you can actually discover whether or not something has feasibility or is a failure is where the business wants to be. So they want to reduce their headcount and the amount of time it takes to get products out the door. And then you have a lot of old school programmers, like I said, that want to do things the proper right way. And I think both are kind of right, and they're both wrong in their own ways. But that said, the business is going to win out because they're the ones who are signing the paychecks. So my argument here is that why the F do we care about code quality or even ESLint rules to some degree when the LLM can read sloppy code better than you can read perfect code? And I think that's sort of a fact. So what I'm trying to say here is that the vibe coded shitty solution that was created over the weekend by the C-suite or whatever, and it ends up becoming production code. That's like the maintenance nightmare that everybody is talking about. Well, the LLMs are just going to get better. And through, I think, a very complicated set of checks and balances, mostly using Git and backing up your shit all the time before the LLM does something too damaging, is going to be the solution here, because the LLM can just clean up its own code as we go along further down the road. And what I found with these LLMs is like an example of that is that if you're gonna have the LLM do something, you need to like have your Git files committed. You need to do, or at least a Git add, right? Git add, and then you're gonna let the LLM try to do something, and then you're gonna test what the hell did this thing just do? How many files did it change? Oh shit, I didn't want it to do all that. You know what I mean? Then like that's what I find myself doing all the time with the LLMs. So then I can just quickly erase everything it just did, and then I'll tell it to do it again, maybe with more, better instructions and things. And for all the people that are like, well, you're not using spec-driven development, blah, blah, blah. Dude, spec-driven development, from what I understand, is about getting the LLMs to understand like the business goals, like the actual purpose of the product and where we're trying to go with that. Like that, to my understanding, is a spec-driven development, whereas we have these other things like tools, and we put them in cursor so that the tools tell it, hey, you need to follow these specific set of coding instructions and look at the ESLint, and here's some examples of things you need to avoid doing, and never use the any type and TypeScript. Like those things are the difference, like from my understanding, between spec-driven development and like just basically like coding rules. But in both cases, it fails miserably all the time. So the checks and balances is sort of my way around that, of just simply using Git and having to back shit up all the time and argue and yell at the LLM. That's sort of a big portion of my job, it seems like these days. So that said, though, the argument that everything has to be clean and 100% well architected and maintainable is probably not much of an argument anymore, when the LLM can deal with the sloppiest of shit that it writes itself and changes things around. So are we going to get to a point where maybe we don't need 100% unit test? Maybe we don't need unit tests at all. We could just simply write a few integration tests or sanity check things, after the LLM is done writing stuff. I think that's probably where a lot of things are going to be headed. But all that said, it's not all doom and gloom. I do think that, when you have a product that is getting better and better, and let's just say the LLMs can get to a point where, like, let's just pretend that they can actually replace programmers and QA and project managers and subject matter experts and business analysts and all that. If it gets so smart where it can actually replace all of those things, nobody has a moat anywhere unless you have simply cache or data. Those are the only two moats that you would have, is cache, data, and maybe name brand recognition. Those are the only three I can think of. But eventually, when nobody has any jobs, you're not going to sell any services, so nobody's going to have any money. So everybody's going downhill eventually. So it's very short-sighted, I feel like, with companies using AI as an excuse to lay off, because we know it's just really an excuse to lay off and keep your profit margins up while we're in a shitty recession / depression in the technology field. But I think from a more positive side of this, and I do actually believe this is probably what's going to end up happening, is that this is going to spur innovation, just like it always has. Like this new technological advancement, just like with the automobile replacing the horse and carriage, that put a lot of people out of jobs. There was probably a lot of people that fitted horseshoes and shit like that don't have a job anymore. But that opened up all like the roads, right, and traffic lights and everything transportation-wise. Then you have the automobile industry and car dealerships and auto insurance. Like tons of jobs were created from that sort of thing. And that's probably going to be the case this time around as well. I mean, I think there are some, maybe some bigger questions like that this time might be different, but it probably isn't. And this could probably usher in a whole new world of possibilities, where a lot of companies, small mom and pop or just small companies, felt like maybe they couldn't compete with creating like the next Netflix or building the next big mobile app, or even like a TikTok or Facebook or whatever those things might be. Now pretty much everybody is going to be capable of doing those sorts of things. So the argument could be like, if everybody can do it and nobody has a moat, then there's going to be way more competition, and eventually there'll be more jobs and we'll be growing again. Because otherwise, like I said, everybody's out of a job and nobody's going to be buying services anyway. So if that doesn't happen, though, one of the things that's going to be very obvious to me is like when we look back, I can look back at some of the wizards of programming, like Dennis Ritchie writing the C programming language, or Linus writing Linux, and Dennis actually writing Unix, and all of that stuff. And in a way, like things were so much easier back then. But we look at some of those lower level languages, and yes, I know technically compared to like assembly, that C is not considered a low level language, but it's low compared to C# or most of the other object oriented programming languages that we all use these days. But we look back at those people and they seem like wizards. And you're going to have a whole new field of programmers that are going to be entering this field that only know how to write with AI tools. And ultimately, these AI tools are going to get more costly as we have to send more tokens across the wire to prevent their hallucinations and write more wrapper code around the hallucinations. Once the companies start having to drive profitability, the prices that we see are going to go through the roof. And they already are starting to do that. And we haven't seen even... I think it's a drop in the bucket so far because, like, you know, Cursor raising their prices so much, which is why I don't even use Cursor anymore. They all have the same problem where, like, these large language models are operating at humongous losses. So that said, things are going to get more costly and more expensive, and you're going to have a whole field of programmers that only know how to use these costly, expensive tools. And maybe it gets cheaper over time, but I don't really see how with aging graphics cards and expensive data centers and power and electricity supply issues. So you're going to be the wizard. Like anybody that knows like logical programming these days is like going to be a wizard here probably in like 10 years. And you're always going to need also logically minded people as well, creative individuals. And the creative, logically thinking people are going to be able to use these tools to their advantage. And you're always going to be one step above, you know, idiots that are vibe coding that don't really know anything about the technology that they're using. Or for that matter, just simply lack like logical programming, abstract data structures, things like that they have a hard time grasping. There's going to be inefficiencies there that skilled engineers that are what we have today are going to be, I think, in demand for quite some time. We're going to be like cobalt cowboys, basically, where you're going to have to pay us millions of dollars to write and clean up your shitty ass vibe coded solutions. That's probably what's going to end up happening to for a lot of companies out there. But again, maybe the LLMs just can get better and better, and then they fix their own LLM generated garbage over time. But the way I've seen ChatGPT, even 5.2, hallucinate today, I just don't see this happening anytime soon. It's funny because like you'll tell ChatGPT like, hey, this is doing this, and I want it to do that, or I want it to do this, it's doing that, help me out. And it'll be like, oh, well, you need to do this and this and this, and it's very authoritative about it. And I'm like, damn, that, it sounds like this thing knows what it's talking about. So let's go down that rabbit hole. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, that doesn't work. It never did work. I gave you wrong information. You need to do it this way. And then you realize, oh, shit, I implemented it wrong the way that they told me in the first place, but then I told them it wasn't right. And then this mug told me that I was right, that it wasn't right. So anyway, all that said, you can convince these LLMs that they're wrong, that they're right. Like, these fucking things don't know. And it's all hallucinations. Just some of them happen to be true. So I'm of the opinion that we're going to look back on this time period and we're going to say, wow, we were crazy. There was a lot of crazy people thinking a lot of crazy things. And just like we've hyped up everything in the past, like cryptocurrency and NFTs, and look at where those are at now. AR, VR, cloud, smartphones, right? We thought we wouldn't even need desktop apps. Everything would be an app at one point. Like, it just... but we've been right. Also, there was naysayers around the internet, right? And there were late adopters to the internet, and they got blown away, right? And there were late adopters to, these cell phones, right? And one last thing, one little caveat is like, I was watching that Die Hard movie. I hadn't seen it since God for probably the 90s or something. But there was a touch screen. This movie came out in 1988, and there was a touch screen, and Bruce Willis's character was like, "Oh, that's a nice toy," but he was using a touch screen. I was like, yeah, but a lot of people would probably attribute the touch screen to like Apple or something like that, but that was decades before that. So that's probably where we're at with this AI thing. Honestly, we're always going to be 5 years away from everybody losing their job and AGI and all this shit. And just like with self-driving cars, we've been talking about that for decades. And Elon Musk has been saying it's like right around the corner since 2012. That's where we're going to be, I think, with these LLMs. They're getting better, but they have a very long way to go. So in the meantime, I don't think perfect code matters if we're going to be using LLMs to write a bunch of our code because it doesn't write perfect code. All right, thanks, guys. Talk to you all later. Bye.